All right. So in this episode, we're going to talk about why startups suck at advertising. And I want to preface this with what kind of startups I'm talking about because all startups are not created equal. Um, I am not talking about well-funded startups. I'm not talking about, VC-funded startups. I'm not even talking about startups that, are funded by the owner's capital, but there's a good amount of capital there. Um, I'm talking about guys who maybe watched a YouTube ad for Shopify and now they want to give this whole drop shipping thing a shot. Um, the, this is generally not the best person to be advertising. Or let me preface this: it's generally going to be more expensive than you think. Um, and why is that? So, in my opinion, there's three main reasons. Why these low funded startups struggle with getting traction from an advertising perspective. So there's lack of assets, graphics, videos, reviews, social proof, these sort of things. What I like to call number two, what I like to call scared money syndrome, where every dollar you're playing with means so much to you because you only have X amount of dollars. So risking a dollar, it seems like a scary proposition. And then three, a lack of product market fit. You know, I being in online advertising for 6 years, going on 7 years now. This has been a reoccurring theme of mine, especially early in my career. I don't do a whole lot now with startups that aren't well funded, or and when I say that, I mean like literally they have zero customers. They have an idea and a couple $1,000s. Um, People who have an idea and a couple $1,000s, while they may think, okay, well, we're going to strike it rich, doing drop shipping or Amazon or who knows what. And they very well could. People do it all the time. But generally speaking, it's a lot harder to get from a couple $1,000s and zero customers to a sustainable business. It's very difficult. And it's always harder than you think it is. So if you're thinking about doing this road, you know, probably anything I say is not going to stop you if you're, a true entrepreneur. But let me just say this: it is always harder than you think it is. It is always harder than you think it is. It is almost never easier. So let's talk about that first thing, that lack of assets. Um, so when I talk about assets from a traditional advertising standpoint, this is like graphics, banners, videos, even like a Facebook page. A lot of these people don't have even a Facebook page for the business. Conversion pixels to measure traffic. Maybe they don't even have a website. So all of these things have to be built, and that takes time and that takes money if you're not going to do it yourself. And even if you are going to do it yourself, think about your average person. How great are they at designing a logo? How great are they at creating a website? There's a lot of website builders out there. And by the way, this is another thing. People over rely on the website or the platform. Um, I see a lot of like like ClickFunnels based websites that do just fine. So, and those are pretty easy to build. They still take some technical expertise, but and it does take a little bit of money for the software costs. But generally, you can whip those things up pretty quickly. So it's not always about building the biggest website. It all depends obviously on your market and your business, but so many people just start a Shopify site to do some drop shipping, and they think everything's all good. And unfortunately, more often than not, they miss the mark on pricing, market research, products. I mean, I've seen Shopify stores. People who have approached me, um, where let's just say they have like 30 different products, and they're all just normal like Alibaba sort of products, where there's nothing unique about them. They're drop shipping, just like everybody else's, at typically higher prices than people who stock, with slower shipping, and they don't really have a real value proposition to speak of. And that kind of speaks towards number three, the lack of product market fit. If you don't have that sort of value proposition, that core value proposition down, you don't bring something unique to the table. This isn't 2012 anymore, where just having a niche site for, I don't know, X, Y, or Z, is going to get you some sales. There are still some opportunities out there. Of course, there's a company that I know of that sells, all they do is bulk rope. That's literally all they sell is bulk rope. The whole website's geared towards selling bulk rope. They sell it to certain businesses that use a lot of rope, and they do pretty well. It's a two-person company, and they make enough to support themselves and their family. It's a kind of a fun little business, but you got to get so niche. You got to niche down so hard to bring something unique to the table. And a lot of the times people aren't thinking that niche. They're thinking way too broad. So, not bringing something original to the table, having no like product market fit, is a huge stumbling block to advertising. If you don't have a defined niche, you don't have a defined value proposition, what's your messaging? What's your targeting? If you just go, oh, I'm selling dog toys, what makes you unique? Because a million people sell dog toys. So that product market fit, it just doesn't work. And lack of assets, if let's say you want to do YouTube advertising, well, you need a video for that. And if you're going to put money behind the video to amplify its reach, it should be a good video. It should be a compelling video. And if you don't have a message, a unique message or a unique value proposition, what do you even make your video about? You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these things, it's just people starting a business with too little capital, and they haven't picked a proper niche. Because they haven't picked a proper niche, they can't get really good messaging or really unique value proposition. So these mistakes that happen in the ideation stage of a startup compound on itself. And just throwing money behind it for advertising does not work. And then I want to talk about scared money syndrome. This is something that is very familiar if you ever, into poker. They always say, don't put anything on the table that you're not willing to lose. And that's entirely true with startup-based advertising. It's entirely true with advertising in general. Advertising is always a risk of some sense, right? Especially starting a new advertising program. Once it's dialed in, it's way less so of a risk, and just more of a customer acquisition channel. But I've dealt with companies who, even if they have a few employees and they're like a year into business, are just very scared at putting money behind their offer. I'll give you an example. Well, no, I don't want to give any examples. Let's keep people who I've worked with anonymous. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is, if you only have $10,000 to start and build your business, and someone told you that that's a sufficient capital formation for a drop shipping company, they're not wrong. You can do it, but it's always going to be harder than you think it is. It's always going to be harder, especially for a brand new business. Older businesses have the advantage of compounding efforts. What they did in year one helps them out in year two. What they did in year two helps them out in year three. Building of assets, refining messaging, refining the offer, getting reviews. By the way, people underestimate reviews so much. Do not underestimate reviews. So the scared money syndrome, where, okay, they go to all this length, they think about it for 6 months, they save up some money, and they want to be their own boss, so they start, some sort of generic Shopify dropshipping store, um, which is, I can totally relate to these people wanting to get out of the daily grind, be your own boss. But if you only have like 10 grand and you only budget like 3 grand for advertising, let me tell you, that's not enough. And especially it's not enough if you're a generic Me Too sort of store. So once you spend that, 1,500, and let's just say you have 3,000 set aside, you spend 1,500 and you get like 200 back in sales. A lot of people start sweating at this point because they realize it's going to be harder than they thought it was. Starting a customer acquisition channel, it's building a profitable stream of customers. Okay. It's building a reliable, forecastable stream of customers. And that takes time and it takes money. So some of these businesses are just not well set up for it, unfortunately. They're just not well set up for it, unfortunately. And so really what I want to hammer down, if you're in the advertising agency space, I would turn clients away unless they are fairly well capitalized, if they're a brand new business. If they've been, even if they have a year behind them, if they have like a decent revenue to show for it or some decent traction to show for it, I'll take that on because it tells me they've at least found a product market fit. But if a brand new business with 5K to spend on ads, and a really generic sort of value proposition is just not a great fit for advertising. If you can't spend money, you need to spend time. That's the thing. So if you don't have the money for ads, you need to go out there and hustle and spend that time. And there's too few founders who are willing to spend that time hustling. A lot of them like to think that advertising will solve all of their customer acquisition problems right off the get-go for a brand new business. Maybe it depends on the business, depends how things are set up, but I would say in a lot of cases it does not. You need some of that traction first. So yeah, yeah. And I mean, I'm kind of repeating myself at this point, so I might as well end it. But if you're in advertising and you come across these clients, I would shy away from them. They're generally the worst clients. They pay you the least. They cause you the most amount of stress, and they just don't have a whole lot of track record behind them to show that this is a viable business worth putting months and potentially years of intense effort behind to make it profitable. And if you are a brand new business, if you are in this like I've got 10 grand set aside, I'm going to start this new business. I want you to really think about the market opportunity. I want you to really think niche. I want you to really think unique value proposition. The more you niche down, yes, the smaller market it might be, but you'll find it's infinitely easier to have the correct messaging, to have the correct value propositions, and to have the correct like targeting in your advertising, in your initial advertising. Think of the example of the bulk rope guy I gave. He has a business that just sells bulk rope, for God's sakes, online. And he does pretty well. And I've seen other niche businesses that have like fairly small markets in the grand scheme of things do really well. So I'd say, don't think huge. especially if you don't have the capital behind it to really make a dent in the marketplace. Think incredibly niche. The riches are in the niches, as they say. And the more you niche down, the easier your business, the easier it is for your business, and the easier it is for your marketing and advertising partner. So, anyways, I just wanted to go over some of the common pitfalls of why it's really difficult for some brand new businesses to advertise. Why, they have a lack of assets, they have scared money syndrome, and they have lack of product market fit. These things can be reduced by getting the early execution of the idea done correctly in ideation stage. And it's much harder once you launch a business and you get some traction to then niche down and pivot. The pivoting is much more difficult than people think it is. So that is everything. This is Ryan McDonald at Shade Digital. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe. Obviously, hit like. If you want to talk about advertising for your business, if you want to get advertising done for your business, give me a call at this number. Pop over to Shade Digital. Check out our reviews. Check out our case studies. We build online customer acquisition channels for small businesses. And we do it well. So give us a call if you need help. And yeah, hope you have a good day. All right, take care.